What we're going to do now, though, is get into the particulars of the process, the details. This is the good stuff. Now, you guys have asked already some really great questions that have brought some details out. And this is what we might call planned redundancy. We're going to go back through those details and make sure you know that what is the difference between something that's flexible. Well, you could do this or this, consider this option or that option, versus what we call a non-negotiable. And I label things as non-negotiables because these are the things, if you don't adopt them, you're really embracing some risk. And I really encourage you to minimize the risk in these processes for all the things we talked about this morning. So we have 12 or 13 detailed tips right now, and it's all about the analysis. So let's go through them. The first one that I talked about earlier this morning is creating clear locations for reinforcement in the EO. And there's multiple ways to do that. The first way is what you saw in the video this morning with Brandon, and that is have the floor area, the reinforcement area, and the table area where the EO is going to go down, okay? So the table of high expectations. So it might look like this. But you could also, and we commonly, when kids don't play on the floor because they're 6 or above, we have table here and a table here. This is the reinforcement zone. This is the EO zone. Really clear. For some learners, we have what we call the executive desk arrangement. It looks like an L. And then we have a roller chair. Who do you think gets the executive desk arrangement? Think about the kind of learner with severe problem behavior. Who gets the L desk with a rolly chair that we just move between EO and reinforcement? There are particular learners that get this arrangement.
The ones that don't want to walk from one place to another?
Thank you. The ones that struggle walking from one place to another, otherwise known as those who flop. Those who flop. Once a child flops, I don't want us engaging in a lot of lifting and resetting and all that. I haven't met a flopper who is 98 pounds where you can just go like, whoop. Those who tend to prefer flopping as their go-to response generally have some heft to them. They're using their weight to their advantage. And so what flopping should look like in a good analysis, the child's in a chair, or the young man, let's say, they're in reinforcement. I might set the EO by giving a signal that it's going to happen. Then I start moving their chair towards the table of high expectations. They might kind of start to slide out of the chair. Then I quickly move it back, say, no, everything's lovely, let's go do this. And then they settle right back in. This is what elopement looks like in a good ISCA. I'm going to elope right now. That's elopement. It shouldn't get any farther than that, right? Because when we reinforce, I sit back down. So you understand the point, flopping, elopement, all those inconvenient behaviors. We're like, do I do it a duration? Do I do a count? It's a count because you're going to reinforce as soon as it occurs, and then it should settle down. Back to this main point, we have different arrangements for clarity of reinforcement of EO, but the arrangements are also there to engineer for safety, so no one's breaking their back, so the child can emit but a small version of their behavior, so we can teach them that version has power, etc. Understand that the EO we have here, this little note on this slide, maybe you can't see it on the podium, sorry about that. I might try to move this back for you. EO, standing, reinforcement, down low. So this is what we mean by this. When the child's in reinforcement, I was modeling it this morning, we get down below their eye level to the extent that we can. Below their eye level. This is a threat to most humans. We're above the person, exactly, the move away. This signals quite clearly, I am not going to boss you, redirect you, teach you, restrict you, restrain you. This means it's on. So, when we're in reinforcement, you don't have to squat. I should put EG. For example, this is reinforcement. But you could also just sit in a chair and chill out. By contrast, the EO, we get tall. We have funny words for all this stuff. So the EO, we say we're tall and tight. Tall and tight. For the reinforcement, we're low and loose. And this isn't jazz hands, although maybe it is in your world if you're into cabaret or something. We do this to signal it's okay. We do this also for safety. So again, when we approach a learner, we're tall and tight. We have our side to them. Our hands are in a position that we can wipe on, wipe off. I know the Karate Kid does this or something, but you get my point. The point is you can protect your face in your private area. Tall and tight, you're protected. Problem behavior happens, low and loose. And if they continue to engage in problem behavior because they're confused, they don't understand the power their behavior has at this point, you too are protected with the arms extended. So it's a lot to it. There's a lot of reasons we recommend these things. I'm starting out with the reason we want it to be abundantly clear to the child. Behave. It's on. Stop behaving. Relax. It's off. Okay? Our mission, turn behavior on and off, requires clarity. It doesn't require us being natural. In the natural world is where chaos lives. In the analysis, it should be the safest place for a learner with severe problem behavior should be in your analysis. And again, safety comes from a lot of factors, one of which being the clarity with which the threat is on or there is no threat. Number 2, have the child directly enter and experience the reinforcement context. Not in the waiting room, okay? Have them come right in to the analysis day and try to get them right into the space where all their reinforcers are. Make sure there's access to multiple versions of their preferred activity, like the example with the fans. Not one fan, multiple fans. If they like electronics, they might like the Nintendo Switch. They might like it on a laptop and an iPad. Don't talk with the team about which one. Anytime you're having a discussion about which one, just say, let's do all of them. Anytime you're having this, go, I wonder which one should we do? Oh, I think they preferred this one over this one. Stop. Just be humble and say, let's put both in there. Isn't it quite possible they might like both? I want you to think about this fundamental notion that almost everything I used to put an or between, for instance, is it attention or escape, is now an and. Should I use this book or that book? And. Use both. Use both. It's about the multiplicity of what we do because we're living in this teaching environment. We want to keep the EOs vibrant and we want to keep those reinforcers vibrant. The more the better. Stereotypy, we talked about it earlier with those great questions. Stereotypy will be unrestricted and allowed and admired, if anything. So if they turn to us and show us their stereotypy, we give a look of not necessarily encouragement, but a look of it's okay. That's fine. No worries. Okay. Those of you with data collection, we always say just relax. If we're doing implementation day tomorrow, the data collectors want to know, like right now, well, what do I score when? Just relax. We can talk about this while the child's in the room, getting happy, relaxed, and engaged. We can still have conversations about the code and all those sort of things. And finally, again, this is all a review because you guys ask such good questions. Make sure there's someone who knows the child there when you do the analysis. They are not required for all the teaching, but they're required, I believe, at the front end of the process. The days of a behavior analyst going into a school, taking the child and pulling them out and doing a functional analysis, I hope are behind us. You need to have someone in the know. That someone is a vessel, has all the history is right there. Ask them some questions, have them live with you to teach you what to do if things aren't going well. Number 5 is an open door analysis. I know it seems inconvenient. Please see it's in quotes because it's a metaphor. It means don't obligate or physically require a child to be in the analysis. Take the challenge on to design an environment that's where they want to be. And please know that a lot of kids, they don't want to be in 3 meter by 3 meter rooms. In the last decade, a lot of schools in New England made FA rooms, which I thought was kind of neat. You know, there's a orange FA room and a blue FA room, and they're usually in the basement. They smell kind of bad because there's padded floors, walls, and ceilings, you know, all that kind of stuff. If you walked into those rooms, I think you would say, if you could go any place in that building, I think all of us would say, I don't think I'm going to hang out here. Do you see what I mean? The learner's the same thing. Where do you think most learners in schools for kids with autism want to go? If they have their druthers, they could go anywhere. Think about where they want to go.
Outside.
Great. The two biggies, outside, especially if you live in Naples. It's beautiful outside. When you live in Worcester, Massachusetts, you tend to prefer the inside because there's 10 feet of snow out there. So the second place is the OT room. Kids love the OT room. This is a generalization, obviously. It'll depend on the child, but a lot of times you might have your FA set up and they're like, yeah, I'm going to go hang out on the blue swing, the hammock. They love the hammocks. Is it because kids with autism love motion? And I'm not so sure about that. I think what kids love is when they sit in the hammock, no one bothers them. That might be that. I think kids in general love ball pits and a lot of great games, and OTs have that. Those OT rooms have a lot of beautiful things. So you can either tick off the OTs by saying, hey, would you mind if I use your room to do functional analysis and skill-based treatment for 3 months? And the OT room's usually very scheduled, like every 20 minutes a person gets a little nook and cranny of it. And so what I would have you consider is figure out what they're digging in the OT room and try to emulate that and put it somewhere else. A lot of places create little corners of rooms, and they'll put a ball pit and a few tables and some colorful furniture and carpeting, and they make that their FA space. That, to me, is a good move. There's a program I'd like to talk about that we've been consulting with my colleague Kelsey Rupel and I for only about 1.5 years, but we really love working with them, and they're called Search. It's a company in New Jersey, right around Asbury Park. One of the reasons I love them is they're around Asbury Park, and I love Springsteen, and so I get to go visit Asbury Park, and I get to go to, you know, some of the bars that Springsteen sometimes shows up in, so I'm really on high alert, you know what I mean? I stay up an hour or two later than I normally would, just waiting for the boss to come in. He hasn't shown up yet, but I keep saying it, and now I have it on camera, maybe we can send it to him, and then he can largely ignore me, as anyone would. Okay. I don't love him, though, because of the boss. I love Search because of this singular act that two people decided upon in the moment when we were there for collaborative implementation. We were saying, where are we going to do this? And the team was struggling because the classrooms are very tight and there's a lot of people. And they can't use this room and you can't use the gym because it's scheduled for this, and we couldn't figure it out. And the principal of that school and the COO of that program said simultaneously, they looked at each other and they said, we're going to share an office. We're going to empty the principal's office. We're going to move all his stuff to my office, and we're going to share an office. When we first got here, we used to share an office. And it was fun, but I'm really glad to be a part. But we're going to take this one for the team, and we're going to go back to sharing an office. They left the room, worked with some other people, moved the space out, created a beautiful space to do this stuff for the clients so they could get a high dosage of teaching hours and not disrupt the classrooms. That's the good stuff. That's why I like Search programs, because leaders stepped up and said, we will create a beautiful space for the child because that is paramount. I want to be clear, you can do this in the classroom. Just understand there are confounds. It's a little less controlled than you might want it to be. This truly is a pull-out model. This truly is, let me create this safe place where there aren't any unplanned EOs, if you will, and things are going to be right. And that's what these folks at Search made happen on that first day. Now, please know that when you open the door, most kids don't leave because they passed that first test of they want to be in that room because you populated with the great stuff and you got down into a crouching position. You didn't scare them or threaten them. You were available to them and everything's lovely. But what happens when they leave? I told you a couple stories this morning. Let me be clear. What happens when most kids leave is they go collect things and they bring them back to the room. That's great. They're basically telling us a few things we missed. Super. Good data. Some kids, however, this is very rare, but they do what we call wandering analyses. These are kids that have a really hard time sitting down and doing anything for more than 12 seconds. Please understand there's a side effect of medication. It's called a psychotropic medication. It's called akathisia. Akathisia affects arguably between 15 and 20% of people on antipsychotic medication. If a person has language and they're on these medications that kids with autism who do not have language are on, like risperidol, Abilify, these second generations, or the old school meds like Haldol, or the off-label use of seizure meds like Tegretol, they report, 15 to 20% of people with language report akathisia. That's the feeling of wanting to crawl out of your skin at its worst. At its mildest, it's restless leg syndrome. It's this inability to kind of quiet the legs. You've got to kind of keep moving. If 15 to 20% of people with language report this effect, then 15 to 20% of the kids with autism are experiencing the same phenomena. Kids with autism are not that neurobiologically different than us. They're more similar than not, yes? And so for some kids, the whole sitting down in a room playing with a koosh ball just is not going to happen. Their reinforcer is shaking the legs out and wandering, moving about. Some kids love looking out windows, then taking a walk to the next window. Some kids like looking at traffic outside the windows. So please know, when you open that door, 1 out of, I don't know how many, in the teens, kids, is going to expect a wandering analysis, meaning they are going to walk about the school. Sometimes their happy, relaxed, and engaged is in the wandering. That is their reinforcer. Fine. When we put an EO in, what does it look like? Stop. Let's go back to the classroom. Right? And then we progress the EOs, problem behavior, like, of course, and then they wander. So sometimes an open door analysis reveals that. Again, that's good data. We don't want to misinterpret problem behavior in a functional analysis that we think is controlled by ecologically relevant contingencies. We don't want to confuse that from problem behavior to just get out of a room. Do you see what I mean? And sometimes that which is depicted on a graph is not related to the contingency. It's related to the setup of the analysis. So clean up that analysis with the opportunity to move and wander, and then that which is on that graph is going to be that which you know how to influence, the environment that matters. Okay, need my glasses. We talked about this morning, videotape. We talked about recording a little bit, keeping it simple. So I want to talk about that right now, how to take the data. This is a big room to show you something on a phone. Even though with my eyes I need a big phone, it's still hard to see. But this app is so, oh, they're making me log in. This app is so clean that you should be able to see it from a distance. This also trusts that I know my password. I haven't locked into this program since I started it, so we may have to delay this part. We will have to delay this part. Oh, no, here we go. Okay, the app is called ISKA. It looks like this. This is the platform for it. You can put in all your interview information into the app. You can actually do the interview within it. And once you start an analysis, I'll start a new analysis now. The screen looks like this. When the background is green, it means you're in reinforcement. If they're happy, relaxed, and engaged, you touch the screen. If they stop being happy, relaxed, and engaged, it goes back to gray. Gray is gloomy. Green in my world is happy. Okay. If they have problem behavior that's dangerous, we call those R1s. You tap it. If it's a duration behavior, you hold it. If it's a non-dangerous behavior, you tap it or you hold it. When you go to EO, you swipe. I've known my wife since 6th grade, so I don't know whether right or left is good. But anyways, either way works here. Swipe, you go to EO. Gray is gloomy. When problem behavior happens, tap or hold, go back to reinforcement. If they're happy, relaxed, and engaged, press the bottom button. That's it. Super duper simple. What are we taking data on? We need to know the prevailing conditions. Are they in reinforcement or are they in the EO? Terribly important to understand if you're controlling behavior or not. Second, I don't need to know every topography, neither do you. You just need to know, was it dangerous or was it the associated non-dangerous behaviors? R1 is dangerous. R2 is non-dangerous. Then last, you've got to know about happy, relaxed, and engaged. Okay. When all said and done, you stop it, save it. Then it gives you a graph. It gives you a summary of the data. It also will give you a graph right there to look at. That graph is the same graph I'm going to show you on this bigger screen. It also sends your data to a cloud. If you get the pro version that the Italians are putting out, then they store the data for you and they send you an Excel sheet with all of the data and the graph. They'll also send you a report, and the report will have the proportion of dangerous to non-dangerous, how much was tucked in the EO versus reinforcement, and it'll give the interpretation of whether it was a safe analysis or not, so your team can reflect on what to do differently were it not. There's going to be several versions and all that good stuff. So let me be clear. Am I here to sell you the app? Not really. I love these Italian BCBAs, but you know, so be it. Buy it if you want. It's not my app. It's their app. I just consulted with them on it because they're really smart folks, and I knew they could do the job and do it well. And there's going to be a free version. I think you can use it 3 or 4 clients, get a taste of it. It's like everything else in this world. It's like drug dealing. They're going to give you a taste, and then they're going to charge you money for it. So they'll give you a taste, and then if you like it, you can get the basic version, which you can do 10 at a time. Pro version is unlimited, and you get the cloud stuff. And then they have a researcher version for guys like me, so I can do inter-observer agreement. It's all done on the cloud, and they send it back to you. So it's really good stuff. If you get a chance to ever meet with people from a hospital called Neapoli Sanit in Naples, Italy, they're the ones that developed this. Please know there's some international behavior analysts that are doing amazing things out there. Let me tell you how smart these folks are. Well, this isn't going to show they're smart. This was a little error. They also have an augmentative communication device that goes on iPads. It's called Lier in Italy. It sounds great. It's their initials, Luigi Iovino and Angelo Rega. But in America, you say that liar. So they're going to have to rebrand that one. But the cool thing about liar is this. It comes with transponders. So when the child goes in the kitchen, the augmentative screens, the kitchen stuff comes to the surface. When they go in the den, the kitchen stuff goes down, and what's popular in the den goes up, games and social interaction. Same thing at school. There are some smart people out there doing some great things, and these folks at Neapoli Sanit are among the brightest that I've ever met. Okay. That said, we normally use paper and pencil data, and the the data sheet that's in your packet is what we use when we go on the road and do this. We videotape it and do computerized stuff for research, but in practice, I use paper and pencil, and the data sheet's in there. I'm going to show you that data sheet right now. Now, when you see this, again, it looks disgusting. Handsome. Disgusting. I get that. Okay? But this is not just a data sheet, this is also a graph. So what I'd like you to do is open up to this page in your packet. Can someone tell me the page number? I'm going to guess page, you guys are fast. Page 7? Okay. Take a minute to just study the data sheet, and especially go to the bottom where it says instructions. And if you need my reading glasses, I carry 4 pair with me at all time. It's very small font. Just read through the instructions, talk at your table, and see if you can figure it out, and then I'll tell you the story from one guy's ISCA through this data sheet. Before I go over the data sheet, just give you a little reprieve from the fatigue of looking at these data sheets. Let's acknowledge a couple things in our field. When I was growing up in the field, we didn't call ourselves behavior analysts because no one wanted us. Now you have jobs all over the world when you can call yourself a behavior analyst. We've come a long way in a short time. We're lucky, I think, to have accidentally fallen in this field. Let's recognize also that we used to get all our information at conferences like ABA, ABAI, and our information through journals. And I think that's cool that people in our field, practitioners, still read scientific journals, which is great. But I want us to acknowledge and appreciate the fact that we're in a new time where we get information a lot of different ways. Guys like Matt Sikoria, who do podcasts. More people know about my research through Matt Sikoria's podcast than any other means. You can keep publishing Java articles, and it's good, and I hope to do that. But thank goodness for Matt Sikoria, who took 1.5 years to browbeat me gently into doing the podcast. I was too scared. I knew I was going to drop some F-bombs or something, and I didn't trust that this guy that I did not know was going to edit them out. But now I trust Matt Sikoria completely because he's a class act and he's got high integrity. And I saw other things happening. I'd see a lot of things on Facebook, and I worried about those things as I get older. And I'm like, people are getting information about how to be an effective practitioner from Facebook. Oh my. I worried about that. I went over to the UK a couple years ago, and after that conference I said, listen, you have to have a buddy to do this process. You have to build a community of support to do this, and you don't need me, you need each other. And so a couple people in the UK stepped up and made a Facebook group. And now there's just under 3,000 members where people go there and ask questions about this process. It's called BCBAs Using the ISCA. I'm telling you about it because I'm proud of it. I'm telling you about it because I think you can get great information from it. I'm telling you about it because there's good citizens in the field that take their time and get no money for it and help other people in our field. It's good stuff. It's a different day. I want to tell you about another thing I learned. I saw a bunch of videos on Facebook from a guy named Ryan O'Donnell. And I don't mean to embarrass this gentleman, but that's this gentleman right here. And Ryan O'Donnell, most of you probably know Ryan O'Donnell. In fact, if we took a poll, and we're not going to do it because I don't want to feel bad, but more people know Ryan than know me. I am certain of that, despite my age. That's because Ryan put his behavior out there. Ryan trying to make behavior analysis a little more accessible and a little less boring than the previous version. Did I worry about Ryan when I first saw those videos? You bet. The hat sideways, the energy. I'm like, who is this man and what is he doing? But I took the time to watch those videos, and I learned he was pushing out some content that was excellent. We need to disseminate in more creative ways, and I'm still stuck in my old ways, these kind of trainings and journals and all that. But I want you to know that even though I went off a little bit this morning on the state of our field, I am a little worried. Because I do think we are at the point where we are either going to be appreciated or we're going to be sitting in the margins of healthcare and helping professionals for the rest of our lives. The flip side of that is we are in a good place. We got people doing creative things, getting the word out. We have podcasts and all sorts of things in Facebook and other social media teaching us how to be better at our craft. Please don't leave the journals in the dust. Please still read them. Please go to conferences and hold people with microphones accountable, whether they're researchers or not. If they have a microphone, it doesn't mean they're right. Be skeptical, hold them accountable. But no, you young people in the room, I may have put too much of a darkness on our field. I want to make it clear, you have accidentally fallen into a great field that's dynamic and has a lot of great people pushing good content out there right now. All right. And Ryan being chief among them, by the way. And if you want to applaud right now for this guy, I would. Okay. Okay. Now let's get to some hard stuff. This data sheet. My pointer's a little light. Basically, the columns, they're 30-second intervals. That's all. The first place we put our pen is by the reinforcement line. When a child comes into the room, they're in reinforcement. So we need to know what the prevailing conditions are. In reinforcement or in the EO. In reinforcement or in the EO. The horizontal line tells us the prevailing conditions. The vertical lines tells us about problem behavior. If they're in reinforcement and they have problem behavior, the lines go down. If they're in the EO and they have problem behavior, the line goes up. If in EO, up. If in reinforcement, down. It's not an accident In reinforcement, down. In the EO, up. Okay? The person in the room tells you the prevailing conditions. Your pen simply follows. Okay? If they have problem behavior that's of a severe nature, again, we call that an R1. That means it's going to be a tall line entering this box. Each and every response is counted. If it's an R2, an associated non-dangerous behavior, a foot stomp, knuckle bite, a yell, that's a short line. Again, if it happens in reinforcement, it goes here. If it happens in the EO, it goes here. Last, happy, relaxed, and engaged. Put a little mark if they were happy, relaxed, and engaged in the interval. This is, for you behavior geeks, I'm finally going to be technical, this is whole interval recording. On purpose. It is not a momentary time sample, nor is it partial interval recording. Whole intervals are important here because we want to be conservative. If there's a second that they're not happy, relaxed, and engaged, don't put a mark in the box. Because we want to make sure they are indeed happy, relaxed, and engaged before we put that EO in. And we want to err on the side of caution. So it's a whole interval. At the end of the 30 seconds, put a mark in the box if they were happy, relaxed, and engaged. Let me tell the story of this learner then through these data. They come in the room, they're in reinforcement. Took them a little bit, but they got engaged. They weren't for a little bit, and then they were. About 4 minutes consecutively of no problem behavior, happy, relaxed, and engaged. The analyst, implementer, put the EO in. We know that because the line is now high. The horizontal moved up. There was a latency of about a minute, and then there was an R1. Perhaps that was an SIB or an aggression. The person attempted to reinforce it, and we got an R1 and 2 R2s. So there was 4 behaviors to the first EO, 1 in the EO, 3 carried over into reinforcement. 30 seconds of happy, relaxed, and engaged, they put in another EO. There was a mild problem behavior, it was reinforced. Stayed in the reinforcement, happy, relaxed, and engaged. Now the EO looks shorter. See how the line got shorter? That means the latency to the behavior grew shorter, which it should if the child is learning that their behavior has power. Notice that in the beginning, there was a cluster of behavior. Notice towards the end, there's but one response. Notice in the beginning, there were dangerous behaviors. Notice towards the end, there are mild behaviors. This is typical depiction of an ISCA. This is strong control over behavior. What's missing from this analysis? A whole lot of stuff. Yeah, let's go through them. There's a whole lot missing from how we did analyses only a year and a half ago. What's missing is the word sessions. There's no sessions. There's just the analysis. What's missing is any time-based decision making. Oh, I'm going to put the test condition in after 5 minutes. That's based on time. That's arbitrary. Base it on the child. This is what we call a performance-based analysis. When do you put the EO in? When the child's ready. 4 to 5 minutes of happy, relaxed, and engaged. When do you put a subsequent EO in? When the child's ready. At least 30 seconds of happy, relaxed, and engaged. Okay. How do you know when the analysis should end? Oh, I know, we should do 30-minute analyses. No, I think we should do 60-minute analyses. All those conversations we've been having about session length and analysis length are so arbitrary. Let the child teach you when the analysis ends. If you strongly control behavior 5 times in a row, I think you're good to go. Go to FCT. Go to communication training. Until then, hang out. If this is continuing, let's keep analyzing. We have a job to do. We have to teach this boy this behavior works. We haven't taught him that if he's still clustering. We haven't taught him that if it's carrying over into reinforcement. Let's say we go to back to reinforcement and they don't get back to happy, relaxed, and engaged. Are we ready to treat? Oh no, because we don't have rapport. Because we push too hard. This is what used to happen with us with kids with good language. We would put in the EOs too many times in a row. They were like, will you stop standing up and taking away my video? What are you doing? We learned from that. okay? And we want you to learn every time you do an analysis something about that child. And performance-based analysis teaches us when to do anything, when to end the analysis, when to go to treatment. The child's behavior teaches us that. Okay, are there any questions on how to take data with this putrid form that'll hopefully be replaced by many apps as smarty pants start to make them? Any questions on the data sheet? Yes, miss?
Actually, it's about the app. Is there access information for that, or where do we find that?
The app will be available in both platforms. They promised me by the end of this month.
Okay.
Now, I want to be clear with you. Wherever I was in December, I said the same exact thing. And I may have said the same thing in November, if I'm not mistaken. So, if I can give one knock on the Italians, they're not punctual. That's my stereotype. So I think it'll be available, I'm just goofing around. I think it'll be available by the end of this month. The name of it is ISCA, I-I-S-C-A. The name of the company that developed it is called Garage 94. And Garage 94 is like a mini Italian Google. They're behavior analysts and programmers. They hang out in a little fancy room and make up programs. It's really cool. Garage 94. By the end of this month, we should be good. Okay. Other questions on the data collection? Yes.
Yes, just looking at the data sheet where it says engage, say for example where it's 10 minutes, and then you say engage, but then you see it just looks deceptive because it looks like they're happily engaged, but then...
Thank you so much. Engaged is only evaluated when the child's in reinforcement. So let's say an interval where I put an EO in place, they have a quick behavior, I go back to reinforcement. That whole interval is now only the reinforcement section. Do you see what I'm saying? What you might be, there's probably 2 of these intervals though between each of these EOs, but this is pretty rapid. So if you, that's also what you're detecting, like we were having the conversation earlier, I'd probably spread out these EOs a little bit, okay? But I want to make it clear, we do not evaluate happy, relaxed, and engaged during the EO. I don't care. I care when they're in reinforcement, we should get them back to that place, okay? Thanks.
It was the same exact question.
Okay.
I think I'm still a little confused because if we're in the 10 interval and it's a whole interval and you provide an EO.
It's just the part of the interval in which they're in reinforcement. See, they're in reinforcement from here to here. This line reflects the fact that they were happy, relaxed, and engaged during this period reinforcement. Oh, does that help? Okay, very good. Thank you. I love those questions because that's telling me you want to get this right? And that, perfect. Yes, Central Park.
When, since the person who's implementing it isn't taking the data, do they usually have a timer or something where they can tell like when it's been, however many intervals?
This is going to hurt some of you. I'm just asking you, just be casual, okay? We're in the room. It's about 5 minutes. Maybe it's 7. We're okay. Maybe it's 9. We're okay. All right, now we put the EO in. We're going to keep progressing the EO until we get a little problem behavior. As soon as there's a behavior, we're going to reinforce. Do I need a timer? I don't. I need to make sure that gal gets back to happy, relaxed, and engaged for about 30 seconds. Err on the side of caution. If you're bad at counting seconds, say 5 minutes then. You don't need a timer. I want you to be natural. I don't want any artifacts of behavioral control in that room. A timer to a child still signals that you might be the controller. This is about balancing out the relationship. I want you to go in there and I want you to be nice and I want you to be normal during reinforcement. I just want you to be obvious, whether you're going to boss or be available to be bossed. And I really don't want you even looking. I don't even want you looking away towards a timer because in the EO, I need you locked on so you can differentiate reinforce that first behavior. And during reinforcement, I need you locked on because I need you responding to the social bids. A timer's going to draw your attention away from that. So even a timer in there I don't love. However, we're behavior analysts. Some of us got into this field because we love the science stuff. Yep. And so sometimes we'll use bug in the air devices. We'll talk to somebody from outside the room. Oh, it's been about 30 seconds. Things look pretty good. So consider that. Sometimes if the learner is not going to be cognizant of these things, we might give a little rap if it was on a window. Sometimes the data collector is just in a room. They're really not part of the social, stuff going on. They're just hanging out, and they'll just give a little signal. I think we're good now. Please know, every single cue to the implementer is a possible way to ruin that relationship. And even if a child doesn't have good language, it doesn't mean they don't understand what we're talking about. That they might not understand the words, but they know that this is, do you think we should, okay, thanks. That is a withdrawal on the relationship, I believe, for a lot of learners, even learners that don't have great social skill sets yet. So I strongly encourage you, remember, the child's number one. Focus on that child and know enough about this process that you can do this without a timer or a prompt, because you can. Because there's some very simple rules, and those rules are listed right here on the data sheet. Don't put an EO in until you know that they are in a joyful place and they've been there for a time. When they have a problem behavior, reinforce fast as hell. And don't put that other EO in until they got back to a nice place. And you'll know when the game is learned. It's like you've done it 3 times, everything looks the same, everything's lovely, let's get out of Dodge. You don't need that timer. I love the question, and I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at our field. Okay. Yes, miss?
So I'm hearing you say that when you're working with that child one-on-one, you shouldn't be taking the data. Somebody else should be doing that. That I just wish my world were like that. So if I do have to choose, because obviously I generally don't have that person, are you saying just don't take the data?
No, I want to say, I'm only talking about analysis now, but let me broaden it out with you, okay? When you're doing the analysis, if you are flying solo, it's just you, I am saying don't take the data, set up a video camera to watch how you're interacting with the client, go in with your set of rules. You understand in general there's like 3 rules here to carry with you, and do the analysis sans data. If you really want, put some pen marks on your hand like we used to do, but you don't need that. Okay, once you understand how to do this, you don't need the data right then, but have the video camera. Now I'm going to flip it now. When you're in treatment, I'm saying take the data. Because by the time you get to treatment, you've built trust. There are spaces that you can look towards the data sheet and circle and slash things. And so I'm going to go over the treatment data collection later, but it's the opposite. In the analysis, that relationship building thing where we don't know where safety lives yet, we don't know if they trust us yet, I need us locked and loaded. But once we got control over behavior and they're getting back to happy, relaxed, and engaged, we can start being a little looser. Looser meaning I can talk to somebody else. I can take a little bit data. So this is just in the beginning. We want precision in the beginning because that's where we don't know if we're safe yet. We don't know if they're safe yet. And then once we proved that, which is essentially what we're doing in the analysis, we take data. Okay, great. Okay, let's get to it. Yes?
This is kind of a procedural question, so it might be for tomorrow, I don't know. But I was just thinking, again, with our tendency in our field to want to kind of do things in chunks, and this mindset of we do the assessment, then we analyze it, then we plan a treatment and implement it. If one of the main goals of this is to establish trust with the child and communicate to them that their behavior is powerful, what are your recommendations or thoughts for being able to go directly from assessment into treatment, or for preparing a team to go directly from assessment into treatment?
Very good. So I'm going to say a few things about this. Just got to order them. When we say treatment, there's 2 main parts. One part is the shaping of the skills. That's the first part of treatment. We usually get to the beginning of that part of the treatment the same day we do the analysis. The same day we're doing FCT from the beginning. We're usually getting to the second step FCT on the first day. Okay. But that shaping process is going to take about 25 to 30 hours. That's our comfortable range for most learners. Let me be clear. This is not a model where you do an FBA on Monday, you interpret the data and write the report on a Tuesday and develop the treatment in your office on Tuesday. You in-service the teachers on Wednesday. You do integrity checks on Thursday, and you hope the shite doesn't hit the fan for the rest of the month. It's not that model. I don't know where that model came from, to be honest. I wasn't trained in that model. I can't see an article that says that's how BCBAs are supposed to behave. It comes out of education. It comes out of the expectations from SPED coordinators and superintendents. They think that's what your job is. We are teachers. We're teaching a social skill repertoire. It takes time. Now, there are very limited circumstances where we can do the PFA process on a Monday at 9, and we can start implementing an all-day treatment at 10, and it stays in the classroom. That can happen. It happens with kids who have language, because I can instruct them on the contingencies and get a little social contract going. But it's exceptionally rare. This is about shaping skills and then programmatically transferring those skills to more people, more places, and extended time periods. It requires patience. And most people don't have patience when severe problem behavior is around, so I'll talk about what we do while we're practicing and what we do outside of practice sessions. But I want you to have some metaphors to talk to your constituents with, or your supervisors with. I used to coach some sports in town. I don't, because my kids are older and they need real coaches. But you know, I coached basketball for a long time, boys and girls, and when a kid showed up for the first practice dribbling like this, they weren't going to be the starting point guard in our first game, right? They needed a lot of practice to learn how to play basketball and how to dribble appropriately and what the rules were and where to stand and how to stand on defense and all that. In practice, they're learning that. What we're teaching kids with severe problem behavior is arguably as difficult as learning to play basketball. It's a skill set. To think that a child could show up like this and be the starting point guard on the travel team in a day would be ludicrous. No one would think that. To me, it's equally ludicrous to think we can take someone who is hammering themselves or others on a Monday and think that we could do anything to make the situation perfect on a Tuesday. It's that thinking that moves us towards BMOD. Because if someone said, here's $1 million, you have to take care of the problem tomorrow. In the past, I was like, I can take care of that. I know some punishers that work pretty well. And I can inspire kids through some root beer float DROs to be on their best. And I might get some effective outcome on that Tuesday. I might earn that $1 million, right? But we know we're just entangling that kid with problem behavior for the future. So it does require some conversation about long-term goals, short-term goals, all that. It is a pull-out model. It is developing repertoires. This whole notion of replacement behavior, that's got us into trouble too. FCT is not a treatment, folks. It's a baby step towards treatment. Thank you, Karen Duran. Those are my favorite people, developed FCT. Beautiful. It is one step towards building a repertoire. Just teaching kids to man for their reinforcers. If anything, we create more of a problem. Parents are like, why do they keep asking me for everything? It's just the first step. And so, again, though, there are certain circumstances, again, kids with language, we can create kind of a level system. I'll just make it clear, even though we didn't talk about treatment yet, it's like this. If you engage in problem behavior, if historically you got whisked out of the room, went to the vice principal's office, which is also known as the timeout room, and your work was brought with you and you were contained there so you didn't disrupt the classroom or hurt people. If that's what I walk into, then the treatment might look like this. If you engage in problem behavior, that's going to happen again because the school already taught me that they can do that. If you use your words, I need to get out of this flippin' classroom, then we'll go to the same place, but you don't have to do your work, and there's going to be a little reinforcement there. We'll be available to you. We'll chat. If you stay in the classroom and meet class-wide expectations, then you get to leave the room and you get all of your reinforcers. How do I know what the reinforcers are? Through the interview. So it might be they get to go walk around with the janitor, play basketball with their best friend, or they make it to go play Legos with the vice principal, because that's what the vice principal does to calm the child down. So to get those high-end synthesized reinforcers, meet classroom expectations. If you use your words, I promise you, we'll whisk you out of there and protect your dignity, and we'll go to the room and not give you shite. We'll hang out with you and we'll be empathetic. If you lose your shite, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to the room and we'll bring your work. And So it's like a little motivational level system. Some kids, we can talk them through that. They understand, they co-sign on it, and we're off to the races. But that's very rare. Most kids, we have to shape the skills, even kids with good language. Okay, thank you for that. My microphone stopped working? Is that possible? All right, we just got to get batteries. I'll just talk a little louder. Another question?
Yeah, maybe this is more appropriate for tomorrow's talk, but I'm interested when we're analyzing the data, is it less on decreasing this severe maladaptive behavior and more on increasing the skill set? Because my mind is blown a little bit, I think, right now by looking at this as dangerous behavior versus non, and getting rid of the topography.
Gotcha. There's a lot in there, that question. I know you've been rolling around in this problem for a bit here, given the nature of that question. I want to make something really clear. My early entry in the field, we all remember our early entry. One of the things in my early entry in the field was Richard Fox's book, the yellow book and the blue book, increasing behavior and decreasing behavior. In fact, 2 books, 2 different colors. You increase behavior over here, or read this book if you want to decrease behavior. I was in situations where there was the behavior team. You were all about getting rid of behavior. We were all about getting rid of behavior. Then there was the acquisition team. You're all the skill builders, and you always dress nicer, you suckers. And anyway, because you weren't getting vomited on. And so, to me, those days are behind me. When I get a chance to have a deep enough relationship with the company, I do my best to convince them you do not have an acquisition team and a deceleration team. You have people. That people, if you plan on getting rid of problem behavior, you must also be teaching skills. To me, it's a non-negotiable. It is not to be celebrated by giving kids reinforcers for free and clapping on the back. Good. It's not to be celebrated to take away evocative situations. It's not to be celebrated to punish it and tamp it down. Do you see what I mean? The only way out of a lifestyle dictated by problem behavior is to teach skills. So I need people who know how to teach, know how to prompt and fade that prompt, know how to dial up the EO to transition control from the prompt to the heart. I need that, and that also addresses problem behavior. So to me, it is one and the same, and I would encourage you, especially if you have a small company and it's nimble and you can make these decisions now, don't have 2 sides of the house. I know our worlds make it happen. The special ed, the people who have special ed regulations, they're doing the acquisition, and the behavior analysts are doing the deceleration, but that's not who we are, folks. We are teachers. We are not just behavior suppressors. So I'm sorry I went a little off on you on that question, but to me, they are one and the same. Again, that's a classic OR model. Should I reduce problem behavior, or should I teach skills? Should I teach through it? It's and. We are going to address problem behavior and teach skills. You know I must care about, because I am pounding the podium right now. Okay. Okay, cool. We're going to get another battery here. Okay, we're going to play a fun game, because you guys still, I need some more liveliness in preparation for tomorrow, so we're going to do this now. West Side, you gritty people, your job is to design a completely unsafe analysis. I want you to design an analysis that invites in risk. I want you to work hard to design an analysis that is going to really secure the odds of you getting fired from public school. That's West Side. East Side, you beautiful, clean people. You're not the unwashed of the West Side. You guys get to design a completely safe analysis. Okay, so your job is to do the opposite of West Side. Your job is to be able to design an analysis that could be done in public school, that's televisable. And then Central Park, I don't know what you guys do, because this is a binary kind of activity. So how about you guys align with the West Side? You risk takers, get fired. And you guys, you sweet people, you go to the East Side and you design the safest thing you can imagine. Now I ask that you not only design safe analyses and risky analyses, but I need you to rank order the tactics. What is the way to ensure risk? What is the way to ensure safety? Rank order them, because you could come up with 100 things. I want to make sure we get to the good stuff. Okay, 2 minutes. Go fast, see what you can do. Okay, folks, why don't we get back together and do this? This is supposed to be fun. Have fun with this. Okay, here we go. Tony is our West Side representative. The grittiest mofo you will ever meet. Tony Camilleri. Okay. Just raise your hand now. Remember, give us your best. I need you to get fired. Give Tony your best risky one. Raise your hand and Tony will find you. West Side. Come on, we need a volunteer. Here we go. Mustard. That's not your name. I was going to say mustard sweater. Here we go. Let's listen up.
Really prep them for this.
Say it one more time. It was great. It was great.
Withhold meds, food, sleep, kind of make sure that they're in a really solid place to start.
Great. Really stress that kid out by withholding sleep, food, and medication, like breaking the law. Good job, West Side. What else do we do?
Take data on the most severe behavior.
That's right. Only take data on the most severe behavior. That's, by the way, what you see in Java. Do you know that? 98% of studies, it's only the most severe behavior. And relatedly, if we're only going to take data on the most severe behavior, we might as well hang out and wait until they have the most severe behavior to reinforce. Great. You are going to get yourself right fired. Good job.
Limit what you learn about the child ahead of time in terms of their behavior.
Yeah. Listen, kids with autism are not like snowflakes. They're all the same. They're all the same. Here's what I want you to do, and I used to do this. I had a banana box. You know what a banana box is? College kids use it to move all their stuff. I was going to say they use it to move record albums, but that shows how old I am. But anyways, the point is, I had a banana box, and in that box I had the demand box, the play box, the attention box, and the tangible box. And I'd go into that institution, I'd say, can someone tell me where Frankie is? Oh, Frankie's over here. Okay, come on, Frankie. You want to come with me, Frankie? Look what I got, Frankie. Okay, let's go. And we go to a room, we do a functional analysis. That's not made up. That's called the generic standard analysis. I look back on, I think, whoa, oh my. That's a way to make sure I'm risky. I don't know anything about Frankie, but I have such hubris that I feel like I can go into an institution, just take some man who has severe problem behavior, take into a room with my box of generic goodies and turn problem behavior on and off. That's mighty risky.
By turning it on.
Turning it on, certainly. Turning it off, maybe. Okay, come on, let's get more risk. We have some more risky contestants.
Provide access to weapons to try to replicate conditions for aggression.
Now we're doing what I want. I want to be downright silly. So if they use shivs in the playground, I'm talking about 3-year-olds and pencils, obviously. Make sure you put in sharp pencils in there, right? Because you want it to be real, man. You want it to be natural. Natural's good, yeah? All right. Great. What else are we going to do? Ian, what do you got?
So Johnny's favorite reinforcers are the trampoline and the big bouncy ball, but they won't fit through the broom closet door. So you can't do it because we're going to do our FA in the broom closet.
That's right. We're doing a broom closet FA. I can't get the ball pit in there, so screw you, Johnny. We'll just have to suffer through a ball. Just one. This one, because it was in my banana box. Let's go do the FA, kid. I love it. You're really effing this up, Ian. Good job.
So
Yeah, make
no signal.
Make it wildly unclear to the learner. Make it wildly unclear whether they're in reinforcement or in the EO. Exactly.
I heard we should have timers too.
Yes, you know it. West Side is all about timers. That's right. Have timers in there. Make sure you take data. Make sure you're taking data and graph and analyze it while you're doing the analysis.
We're going to involve the peers.
Okay, good. Hey, word on the street is that their problem behavior is maintained by peer attention, so I got to get that peer in there. Yeah, they're going to take a few knocks, but they're young. They'll bounce back. Good. Okay, good. Now, I want to get deep now into tactics. We're going to stay on West Side. I love what we're creating here. We are really building up our resume.
We're gonna save some time and jump right into the EO.
There you go. That's right. We're going to show up for the analysis. As soon as they walk in the door, we're going to hammer them with the EO. Yes. Nailing it. Let's get more tactics out here. Think about some of the things we've emphasized today. What else are we going to do? We have Amanda. Okay. Kelly.
We're going to throw out the big taboos right now. We're going to use restraint and seclusion to de-escalate behavior.
There you go. There you go.
We'll get the reinforcement back in, get them happy and engaged.
I want you to understand the irony of what we're saying here. What we're saying is we're trying to create a risky analysis, and you're saying that a risky analysis is one where you have all the restraint gear ready. Maybe you hire the big people to back you up during the analysis, right? That is risk. Understand, those are not safety procedures. How about making sure you bring the nurse there? Let me take it down one absurd level. Make sure you do it in a padded room. When we work with people, we say, get the pads off the wall. If you have them, you'll use them. You will make better decisions for your learners not having that. You can work with people with severe head bang in a room without pads. It'll force you to understand the controlling variables for that behavior. Excellent.
So stand over them, which would be really intimidating for me. But stand over them, use a really firm voice, and blindly follow your procedures regardless of what's happening.
Excellent. Let the procedures rule. Take the method section from an article published in 1982 and emulate them. That's what we used to do, okay? Okay. Okay, very good. One more from the west side.
If they have pure aggression, take them to a playground full of kids.
That's right. Make sure there's young innocents around. Excellent. Yes. Let's get a reputation in the community. You guys are nailing it. Yeah, you can't even turn it off. We can really F up an analysis, can't we? That's awesome. Now, safety people. You don't have to do just the opposite. You can add others. And if you have others that aren't the opposite of what's been said, let's hear those. But add in whatever you want. Now, our mission now is not to get fired, but to get hired and have a job for life. Our mission is televisability, and our mission is safety. So let's go. Just raise your hand. Shannon will come find you. Oh, of course, the furthest person in the neighborhood is the first person to raise their hand. Why are you making Shannon work? Oh, have the caregivers present. Why? Why does that make for a safe analysis? Good. If they're a young child, being separated from the parents already puts them in irritable, okay? Or they will teach us about how to respond in that analysis. They'll teach us about happy, relaxed, and engaged. They'll tell us that groan is a precursor. Oh, I did not know that. Thank you. That's where safety is. Very good.
Do you want just one?
Yeah, just one, or your top two. Let's give you two. Top two.
Okay, so we leave the door open.
Good. Run an open door analysis. West Side, did you say that? All you need to do, West Side, to get fired half the time will be close the door. Go to that broom closet. Don't put in the right reinforcers. But to remember, close that door. Otherwise, you may have a job next week. What's that?
I said adults outside the room, no windows, close the door.
There you go. That's right. Breaking the law, too.
Have many reinforcers in the room, like multiple of
Yes.
anything that they shouldn't interest in.
Many reinforcers in the room. Multiple versions of the same thing, different versions of the things they like. Okay, we're cooking. Okay, here, let's get some more. The safest analysis you can come up with while still achieving your goal of moving towards a function-based treatment. Very good. Let's individualize and personalize those contingencies. Control comes from personalizing the process we think. There's not great data on that, but I have a hard time arguing against it. There's some studies that I just can't do because it's so obvious what the answer is. If I think I know the answer, I can't spend 3 years trying to find one. That's one that I'm not going to spend 3 years on. Personalize the analysis is painfully obvious that it should be done. Okay, yes?
Reinforce the lowest level. Reinforce the lowest level of behavior.
Very good. To me, maybe the most important safety tactic is that one. Reinforce the lowest level behavior. In other words, the first response to the EO that is a response that is reported to co-occur with the dangerous behavior. And it might even be the dangerous behavior. Okay, so what else are we going to do to be safe then? We have some up front. Oh, here we go. There you go. Let's do a performance-based analysis. The child will dictate what to do next, not the research article that said do 5-minute sessions, 30-minute analyses, etc. Again, let me be clear. I love research, and I love JABA and many good articles and BAP and journals. Practice is always ahead of our science. A lot of our science is demonstrative. We're demonstrating things we learn through practice. Trust yourself in a community. I'm not saying be a cowboy. I'm not saying go out there and just make stuff up. What I'm saying is be deliberate, be thoughtful, be able to defend it, and just because it's not in a journal article doesn't mean it's not for practice. If you think that, you're going to be hogtied by some old practice habits for quite some time. Great. Okay, some other ones. Front table, we got a few here.
Be accessible, the low and loose you're talking about, get on that level.
Great. During reinforcement, low and loose. During EO, high and tight. Tie and tight, that's the haircut. Tall and tight. That's right. When you stand up, buzz, buzz, buzz. Low and loose, high and tight.
For the child to initiate their interaction.
I'm sorry, I was off task. Could you repeat that?
Don't initiate an interaction, wait for the child to initiate it.
Yes, during reinforcement, don't initiate the interactions. Wait for the child to fill that social space, and chances are they will. Good. Jack?
Train staff to fluency.
Ooh, are you serious, Jack? That's a good idea. That's usually not said, but yeah, imagine that. Please know that people go do functional analyses after having a class or reading a method section. When we talk about this tomorrow, there's actually 4 steps to our process, and we don't get to talk about one of them in our research articles because of the nature of research. The first step is the interview. The second step is design the analysis. Interpret, write things down. Then there's the analysis is actually the 4th step. This 3rd step is role play. Role play is tremendously important. You have to practice this with a trusted confederate, a friend, a colleague, to get it right. It is not necessarily natural. When you do these a few times, you'll be pretty good at it. But the first couple times, they're going to throw a curveball, and you're going to look at the data collect. What do I do? Ooh, stand up, sit down. What? Tie and tight. I need a haircut. It gets stressful, so you got to practice these things. So super. Okay, one more. East side. Let's make it safe. There's 2 things actually that haven't been said that are among the most important ones. There's 3 top dogs. 1 has been said. Good. If the parents are going to be present in the room, and be careful about just saying, hi, my name is Dr. Hanley, zip it. So remember, you have to slow play that zip it stuff, but yes, build some rapport, have the parents present, and then make sure they know how to be effective through role play. The parents do the role play just like anyone else would do the role play. Okay, you want to do any more? Yeah, wait a minute, West Side. Oh, okay. Thank you. The immediacy of the reinforcement is critical. That's the 2nd one. And what else? Not only the immediacy of the reinforcement, there's something else about the reinforcement that needs to be understood. The clear difference is discriminative, but what else about the reinforcement itself? You said in the back, I think. And it's not just a lot, folk, but you're with me. All of the suspected reinforcers for problem behavior. I want to emphasize this. If problem behavior, in truth, which we will never know, please know the truth is hard to find. That's not what science does. But that's a conversation of a different sort. If problem behavior is truly maintained by A, B, and C, think about if you put in A, B, C, and D, what are the implications of putting in an extra reinforcer that is irrelevant to the maintenance of behavior, or A and B only? So you can err on the side of putting in too few. What are those implications? Or you can err on the side of putting in too many. What are those implications? Let's start with the too many. What are the implications of putting in a reinforcer that might be considered a false positive? It is not actually controlling behavior, but we put it in there because the interview suggested we should. What are the implications? Could you say it loud? I can't hear. It becomes conditioned. It could be. I tried in graduate school. My dissertation was all about conditioning. It's hard to condition. I don't think I'm effective conditioning these big old reinforcers in 20 minutes. If it was that easy, we'd be conditioning reinforcers left and right. So that's actually not my concern if I put in too many. People have said that. People sometimes say, well, you could create a new functional relation. They never engaged in problem behavior to get that in the past, but because you put it in there, look what you did. And I'll give a fancy word to it. We'll call it iatrogenic effects, and we'll really scare people from doing this process. So that's why I want to talk about this. If you put in too many, what are the implications? Are they positive and negative, and then what are they?
I don't know, I'm guessing. Is it
Good.
because it takes time away from what you're doing? Object that doesn't cause problem behavior?
Again, I want to make it clear, the implications, I know you're struggling with this. This is a weird question, so I'm not going to let you struggle anymore. I think there's some good answers out there, but let me just throw it out there for your consideration, then we'll get those answers if they're different. If you put in too many reinforcers, the implication is you will still have a safe analysis. If you put in too many reinforcers, when you treat, you will teach them an extra mand. You will teach them to tolerate delays for that extra reinforcer, and you will teach them what to do when they can't have that other event. If anything, you will prevent problem behavior from developing around that reinforcer. What I'm trying to get at is there is absolutely no negative implication of adding something that shouldn't be there. Now, by contrast, if I don't put all the reinforcers in, I put but 2 of the 3, that third one, the EO, is going to be percolating during my reinforcement interval, and that might evoke behavior during reinforcement such that I won't be able to turn it off. There's a real risk of putting in too few. There is no issue with too many. I understand from a scientific perspective, it makes us feel gross to be so wrong, to write a functional assessment report and we say it appears that problem behavior is sensitive to escape, tangibles, attention, and man compliance, and oh, we could be wrong. Well, guess what? How come we don't worry about being wrong, leaving one out? We're wrong there too, people. We've been wrong about man compliance for decades. Let's worry about being wrong both ways. Let's worry about the implications of the kind of wrong. Missing something has a negative implication. Having too many has no negative implications that I can find. Okay. So West Side, don't give them all their reinforcers. Make sure you keep one in the closet. East Side, be liberal. If there's any issue, maybe because you have to collect another set of games or something, okay? We can handle that. Okay, Central Park, I don't know where you are anymore, so what do you want to say?
It's just a question.
Yes.
So when you're doing the interview, how do you approach it when the parents or the caregivers aren't as aware of those things? So they're either guessing at the reinforcers or the EOs and getting them wrong, or they're literally just telling you, I have no idea about any of it.
Good. Good. We're going to the interview. Let's go there right now, okay? I'll talk more about the interview tomorrow, I promise. The deal with the interview is a lot of people worry the parents aren't going to, they worry about it being subjective. They worry some reporters won't be great. I'll be frank, I never have a problem with parents unless they speak a different language and then I got to get some support. I have a problem with staff often in group homes. They're very guarded, and I understand the group home culture because I worked in them. The guy comes up with a sports code asking you a bunch of questions about how you respond to problem behavior, you think you're going to get fired. You go get the binder and say, I plan to ignore, redirect, and page, Mary. You know what I mean? So that stuff is real. But sometimes parents are stressed and exasperated, and they're like, I've answered all these questions. I don't know why problem behavior is good. If I knew why, I would, we wouldn't be talking. I generally will circle back and talk about language and their preferences a little bit, diffuse the situation. And then I'll come back. I usually ask parents, just tell me, visualize the last major meltdown. Visualize it. Don't talk about it right now, just think about it. Take you back to the space. Some parents find this challenging because it's ugly. And I say, tell me the story. Tell me what you're seeing. I'm not asking them to tell me what the triggers are. I'm not asking them to tell me what they do following problem behavior. I'm just asking them to give me a vivid recount. A vivid recount will get us at the EOs and the consequences. I will extract those from the vivid recount. That's my expertise. That's our expertise. But I don't need to ask them to break down the contingency for me. If I sense any of that pushback, I go to vivid recall. And then I also use hypotheticals. Hypotheticals are the best with group home staff. If you say, what do you do following problem behavior, you're going to get some defensive posturing and or incomplete answers. If you play more of a game, Listen, man, I know you would never do this, but if this gal was having a major old meltdown, ripping the curtains down, trying to scratch everybody, and you could earn $1 million to get her to stop, could you earn that million? What would you do? It's a hypothetical. What would you do? And they say, well, I'd get all the loud learners to the other side of the classroom, and I would make sure she could have access to her beanbag chair and her box of Stimmy toys, and I'd take her IEP book, and I'd hide it, and I'd bring in snacks, and I'd sit near her, and if she wants me to tickle her, I'll tickle her, but if she tells me to F off, then I have to leave the room. Do you see what I'm saying? I get the richness. All of a sudden, it's like blah, 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 when I ask the hypotheticals. So there are tactics I'll emphasize again tomorrow, the same ones, to be honest. Use hypotheticals, use vivid recount. But please know that these tactics are often not used. We give people the form and they fill it out. We're not even face-to-face nowadays a lot of the time, and we still get really good information. And then the last thing on this point is the interview will never be perfect, and don't keep interviewing until it's perfect, because there's no such thing as a perfect interview. Do the interview, then do the analysis. The truth can be found in the analysis. The analysis is iterative. If you're not getting HRE, then you got to do something. If you're not turning on behavior, then we have to reconsider the EO. Maybe we have to divide the attention. Maybe we're giving too much love when we're instructing. So the analysis will allow for the iterative process to unfold. Okay, let's do a few more questions, and then I want to return to the safety discussion as quick as we can. First, sorry, Shannon.
So what I've seen happen in families many times, because items are reinforcers and because they evoke a neo, the parents have taken all of them away over X amount of years. So Play-Doh will be a reinforcer, the iPad will, and then I'm imagining me coming in and saying, okay, we're reintroducing all of it, we're doing the ISCA, you're gonna sit there, and I'm just very curious how parents deal with that.
One of the main reasons we don't have parents do the analysis is there's real emotion there, and it gets in the way of behaving in these systematic ways that we're talking about. I don't really want parents doing the analysis. I want parents watching the analysis and informing us about how to do the analysis. You are completely right that a lot of times when you say, what makes Billy happy, relaxed, and engaged, they say nothing anymore. That's why we're talking. And so then I move back into hypothetical. Remember when Billy was happy, relaxed, and engaged? How long ago was that? Visualize when he was his most joyful. What was he doing? And I learn about those things that have been stripped away from their life, and I bring them back. Yeah, the kids who aren't allowed to have Play-Doh anymore, it comes in. The kids who are allowed to have slime anymore, it comes back. Superheroes, it comes back. All their stimmy stuff that we got rid of because they got in fights when you try to take it away, it comes back. The TV shows that you don't have them watch because all they do is engage in perseverative speech about them, it comes back. It all comes back. Everything they love comes back in this process. And then we will teach them how to handle their business with the stuff they love. And so that is part of the process. Again, what do we want to be known for? I want to be known for the joy guy. That's what I want to be. Don't give me a name. I don't like nicknames. But anyways, when people see us coming, I want them to say, there's the guy that brings the joy. Now, come on. That seems almost ludicrous that someone would say that about a BCBA right now, but that's what I think we're capable of. We are the joy people. We bring back the joy. Then we bust their chops a little bit and build some skills. But in the beginning, it's all about the joy. Okay, a couple more thoughts.
It's kind of related to the previous question, but a lot of times when you're interviewing parents as part of the behavioral assessment, when you are trying to pull out details about what is happening in and around problem behavior, parents have a lot of guilt, like, what have I done wrong that's been
Of course.
situation? So a lot of times if you just redirect it and you ask the question about when are they happy, relaxed, and when they wake up in the morning, what's the first thing they do? What do they do after they come home from school? So
Perfect.
try to tweak the conversation to
That's right.
figure out what the reinforcers are as opposed to focusing it on the problem.
A functional analysis is just a reinforcer assessment, right? And if you manipulate things now, it's an analysis, but you are completely right. And there's a whole bunch of people out there not liking what we do because they're strength-based and we're problem-based. And I never liked that little pigeonhole and they put me in the problem-based kind of thing. But when we go in there just talking about problem behavior, it's hard not to be that way. So I completely agree with you. You can start the conversation about, tell me how they communicate and tell me the things they love to do. And that's on top of the form. It's what are their leisure skills? What do they like to play with the most? I love to ask people, tell me when they're most joyful. Do they still experience joy? The funny thing is, a lot of kids with severe problem behavior still have a lot of joy. They take those Mardi Gras beads and whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I never feel like that. Like, I wish I could feel that way. I need to induce that. My point is, it's hard to get joyful. Okay? And these kids, they have it. They capture it. So yes, start the conversation there. I think that's another way to ply the troublesome information from families. Okay. Can we get back? We'll get back to it after this question. Yes, of course.
So I'm trying to imagine doing this with some of my clients in homes, and it's very difficult for me to imagine a room in any of their houses where it's safe because there's just stuff.
Yeah. I'm not asking you to get rid of it. We have no problem with complicated environments. Is it harder to do in the home? Yes. Do I recommend you stay away from the steak knives? Yes. But I do suggest you go to like the den. If it's a single wide and there's like 2 rooms, then you go where you can go. If you have a house with a basement or a den, go in that space. But you have to recreate it. It can't look like the house normally looks. You have to recreate it. You got to take stuff from the bedroom and the basement, maybe bring in some stuff from school, create that space. And I'm not kidding you. I want you to make it beautiful. Put out like a little blankie. I don't know how old are your learners? Okay, so don't call it a blankie. So put out a picnic blanket. Lay out the stuff so it's like, looky. This is some good stuff. Right in my home, right in the shithole I call home, is a beautiful oasis of reinforcement. Who is this wonderful woman? Do you see what I'm saying? You can do this. Now let me be clear. If you have real young kids, we do have a program that we prefer when kids have emerging problem behavior. It's called the Balance Program. And we don't do anything with the kids. We coach parents to do all the skill building. So I like that. That's why I asked about the age. If a kid's 10, though, we will do this sort of process in the home. And is it a little more sloppy and risky and all that? It is. But if your service provision doesn't allow you to go to some center, then you can still do this there. But you have to understand it might be a little slower. You might need to stay in reinforcement a little longer. But people do this in the homes. You just have to construct the space. You don't try to rely on how it exists. It's not what it is. It's what it ought to be. What should it look like to make sure you're going to get the happiest, most relaxed, most engaged child?